Good morning, Magic players. Welcome to the morning show where we discuss all things Magic the Gathering, including the developments of the modern metagame. We do Q&A and write general Magic discussion. Get your questions ready and be part of the conversation. And in the second part, we do Decklist review. So we've got a 75. You always wanted some feedback on both myself and the community. We can fix the mana base, the win condition, help shore up your bad matchups. So brew up your cup of coffee because we're about to brew up some Magic. Welcome to Coffee and MTG for February 1st of 2021. I am, of course, your host, Nikachu, Merfolk Master. And let's have a wonderful discussion this morning. And we do have a lot to talk about. And basically, the thing to be talking about today is like, where was Tybalt's Trickery? Tybalt's Trickery! Like the single card has rocked the modern metagame significantly. It's wiped out. It's still somewhat diverse, but make no mistake, it's wiped out a lot of other archetypes because they just can't deal with a card that literally basically wins the game on turn 3. Tybalt's Trickery does that. We're going to be talking all things Tybalt's Trickery this morning, among other things. But I will say that you do have to be prepared if you are this. Cannot stand the heat of counter spells. Absolutely cannot stand the heat of counter spells. If you have any counter spells in your deck, you will fucking destroy this deck. And therefore, this will never win. This will never win a big tournament online. When I'm talking like, a modern super qualifier, modern challenge, they would have to be lucky to completely dodge all the Uro decks or any deck that's playing counter spells. You can see counter spells in Storm. You can see some counter spells in Ad Nauseam, for example. You have Pact of Negation plus Angel's Grace is basically GG. So counter spells just destroy this thing. However, this deck can find a lot of success in the leagues because you're not always up against a counterspell deck. Although I have to say that whenever I play the deck, I'm always up against counterspells. Counterspells are going to be like a really big deal. But there's a lot of ways of disrupting this deck. Needless to say, though, there are a lot of decks that do not have any disruption for this deck, and they will just get crushed by the weight of Emrakul's on turn 3, or even turn 2 if you've got Gemstone Caverns. So this deck is real. A lot of people are playing it. I can almost guarantee it. If you play this deck in a league, you'll face it at least once, sometimes twice. That will be the average that you will see it in the leagues. So you have to be prepared. Just make sure, just be aware. It's out there. And it's real. It's very real. Like, even when I'm playing like a moron, I can win like 45% of the time. But now that with a tuned deck, I can win 60%. And I don't even think I have a good build. I think there's other builds that are even more powerful than that, and they can get into the 70, 80% range. So good morning, everyone. Good morning, Frederick, Raman, ZG, Matthew, Georgios. Good morning, Maelstrom MTG. Rebranding over here, so we're pretty good. Oh yeah, that's good. Maelstrom MTG, very good. You know you're a content creator when they have MTG at the end of their name. Good morning, Mark Hawkburn. Good morning, Sir Benny. Good morning, Kelly. Good morning, Tragic. Good morning, Matthew. Good morning, Mikey J, and good morning, Dexter Johnson and Steven. So yeah, I've been playing quite a bit with the Tybalt's Trickery deck. First off, I do find it fun to just destroy all my enemies. I mean, things like Mono Red Prowess, they usually just struggle to even maintain the balance. This deck just fucking blows that thing away. They cannot deal with the turn 3 Emrakul. They have to, like, on the play, have turn 3 kill or they're dead. Simple as that. Simple as that. If they don't have turn 3 kill, which they don't very often, they have a bunch of dirty prowess creatures. They're trying to go. They can kill by turn 4 pretty reliably, but turn 3, yeah, it's a bit difficult. You know, a bunch of prowess creatures and a bunch of bolts and lava darts. They don't have all of it all the time. So I've been just crushing that deck. It can crush Tron. It will crush the Titan decks. I mean, unless they can adapt with some new sideboard cards, and maybe they can adapt those things. Tron has basically access to any color because they're like a base green deck, but they can splash anything if they want. They could, I don't know, splash white for deafening silence if they need to. So there's a lot of options. There's definitely a lot of room for a lot of the decks right now to adapt, but by default, there's a lot of decks with really bad matchups to Tybalt's Trickery. With Trickery and all the other combo decks, does the London Mulligan the problem? So that's a bit of debate on Twitter. And here's the argument going down. Is the London Mulligan the problem, or is the card design a problem? Counter target spell. Choose 1, 2, or 3 at random. Its controller mills that many cards, then exiles cards from the top of their library. Why didn't it just say opponents? Opponent spells. Like, if counter target opponent spell or something like that. Or a counter target spell controlled by an opponent. Why do they give us the option to make a combo deck out of this? Like, obviously, we're going to try to abuse it. But if you say counter target spell controlled by an opponent, well, then there's no problem. Anyway, the London Mulligan definitely favors a deck like this. I mean, it definitely puts it on the spotlight. But the card design it's bad design. It shouldn't be allowed to target yourself. You should just be able to target someone else. You should only be allowed to target other people's spells. It's almost as if they wanted you to do this. It's almost as if they wanted you to cheat something stupid and play. But for 2 mana, like, that's too early. That's so early. Yeah, it's that's a good one. Counter target spell you don't control. That's definitely an idea. But anyway, it's worded in a way that obviously it can be abused. That's the core problem. You could definitely say the London Mulligan has contributed to it, but also the London Mulligan has contributed to people finding answers to this deck. It's difficult. Like, the deck is not clearly winning against everything because, again, sometimes discard plus a lot of pressure will win. Counter spells will almost always win. There's a lot of hate cards out there that I've lost to that if you have a hate card plus pressure, then you will beat this deck. London Mulligan has few degenerate combo decks since its implementation, but they haven't been able to stand. If you look at Dredge, Oops All Spells, Charbelcher, Neobrand, like, you know, it's encouraged them to people to build decks like this and try them, but they haven't been able to, like, they haven't been able to stand up to the hate, is what I'm saying. They haven't been able to stand up to the hate. So the game is we're still playing a game of Magic. Do you think this deck is good for the format? Do you think it hates out other unfair decks? I mean, I think it's a bad deck for the format. The gameplay is just stupid. Like, and I'm going to just repeat it again. Like, a fucking monkey can play this deck. You know, the apes can play this deck. It's just 3 lands, cast Violent Outburst or some other cascade spell, get Tybalt's Trickery, target your own spell, put an Emrakul in play, and attack. Now, there are other builds that will be a little bit more nuanced than that, but there is so much power into just playing one card, and there's like no gameplay. There's very little gameplay. I mean, there is sometimes gameplay. My opponent will play Meddling Mage, name Tybalt's Trickery, then I have to play Blast Zone or search for a Blast Zone with my Teleria West, play a Blast Zone, blow it up. So there's a little bit of a toolbox in the lands. But in the grand scheme of things, this is a terrible combo deck. This is very stupid. I think it's going to get banned. I don't know. Like, obviously, probably Tybalt's Trickery is going to get banned. Like, what else are you going to ban? You're going to ban Violent Outburst? There's other Cascade spells anyway. Are they going to ban all the Cascade spells so that they can let this thing survive? Like, that's just dumb. So, anyway, the deck is not good for the format. It's terrible for the format. It does prey on my enemies, though. Is this Tybalt deck easier to play than the Bolt U deck? You mean like Burn? I don't know specifically what the Bolt U deck is. Isn't it kind of fragile if they mess with what you're doing at all? You don't even have a real deck at the end. Well, how do you want to do it? Not every deck has not every deck has the tools to do something like that, even if you bring in the sideboard cards. And by the way, this deck has more resistance than you think. So I had a lot of games where my opponent brings in, like, Meddling Mage, for example. They already had it. Meddling Mage, name Blast Zone. Okay, sorry, name Tybalt's Trickery. Okay, I play Blast Zone. I take it up, I blow it up. There's actually a game where my opponent had Thalia, Guardian the Thraben, and a Damping Sphere. It had both these cards. And I wiped them away with a Blast Zone. Blast Zone turn 3, tick up, turn 4, pop Blast Zone, combo off after that. So there's more game to this than it looks. There's way more game to this than it looks. Yeah, turn 3 win sound, and it can have a turn 2 win with Gemstone Caverns. Turn 2 win. The best was I was playing against some Death and Taxes player. which actually shouldn't have that bad of a matchup, really. But I was able to turn to them twice because of Gemstone Caverns. I turned to them in game 1, and I turned to them on game 2, and they salted off at me in the chat. I loved it. It was absolutely fantastic. It was the highlight of my weekend. I wish I had it on camera. Do you think I should change my paper Mono Red Prowess to Is It, or wait until Modern Horizons 2 comes out? I think you can wait until Modern Horizons 2 come out. Mono Red is totally fine. It'll stand no chance at all to this. Like, Is It has a chance because you can add counter spells. But I'm pretty sure the Tybalt's Trickery combo is going to get banned. If it doesn't get banned, move to Is It. That's my recommendation. The deck is not good for the format. It is a very stupid deck, too. It's worse than Living End. Living End... It's like, the thing is, this will just win the game on the spot. Like, Living End, if you try to just win very quickly, you can't. You can, like, cycle on turn 1. You can cycle 2 things on turn 2. Then you can play a Violent Outburst or other Cascade spell on turn 3. And you'll get a bunch of creatures on the battlefield, but there's still a few turns before you can attack and win the game. I mean, it's not over. Whereas when you put the big spaghetti monster in play, you put it in play, you cast it, you get the extra turn immediately. Your opponent doesn't get another turn. You immediately get another turn. Then you attack, you wipe their board, and then they resign. That's it. It's a tough life. And for the record, I actually think Tybalt's Trickery is like one of the worst decks maybe ever. This is like, I will put this is worse than Hogak. Maybe it's not nearly as good as the Hogak deck, but I think the deck itself is worse than Hogak. The fact that it's just 3 lands, cast 1 spell, and win the game. And by the way, I mean, if you're building, depending on the build that you have, you will 100% get that Emrakul in play if not interacted with at all. It's Force of Despair. It is actually there. I mean, if you dig, there's a lot of different answers to this deck anyway. Force of Despair. So no, it's time. If it's not your turn, you may exile a black card from your hand rather than pay the spell's mana cost. Just remember, I mean, they might try to combo off on your turn. Violent Outburst is instant speed, and that's very important for playing around Force of Negation. Cascade. Creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. But it's instant speed. So you can do this on your opponent's turn. Very, very important for playing around Force of Negation against those blue decks. David Stewart, good morning. Agrahel, Nikachu, do you think it should be banned in every format then, or just those that don't have any answers for it? I think just the formats that don't. Well, I mean, probably every format. I mean, if it is seeing play in any other format, like Standard or something, then fuck this stupid card. It's stupid. Let's just get it out of here. Just get it out of here. It creates unfun games, creates unfun environment. I have to say, I'm enjoying playing it, but like, there's no fun in my opponents playing. And some of the games are stupid. I mean, in earlier iterations of my deck, when I was stone cold to like a discard spell, my opponent would Inquisition turn 1. I would just concede without showing them anything. I had a match like this. I'm serious. Story time here. My opponent goes turn 1, Inquisition. I concede. We go to game 2. I play a land, pass. They play Inquisition. I concede. That's the match. I had a match like that. I was speedrunning that league. Speed run! I will say, I never got through a league so quickly than with this deck. I could get through a league within 25 minutes. And most of my time, like something like 8 minutes, was spent waiting for opponents to show up. Just because they reset the league. Yeah, skill deck, that's right. Quote unquote skill deck. The problem is most of the answers are blue. No, not true at all. Okay, so let's have a conversation about that. Let's go over some of the cards. Let me know what cards you think are good against the Tybalt's Trickery deck, because there are quite a few good sideboard cards. Because I've faced them already. Is the best Tybalt tech praying that they draw their Tybalt's Trickery right before the opponent is set to combo off 2 times? Nope. So let's go over this. So I can start. Okay, any counter spells. So like Any counterspell will do. They're brutal. Force negation, I mean, spell pierce. I'm not going to go through all the counterspells. We just say counterspells in general are just good. Spell pierce, I've seen Flusterstorm. Remand is super popular, and it's just as good because all you have to do is remand the Tybalt's Trickery. And that's it. Okay, so we have Deafening Silence. That works. I have definitely saw that. Ruin my day. Deafening Silence is one way of beating this deck. Each player can't cast more than one non-creature spell this turn. Yep, Mana Leak. Mana Leak will do it. I don't know if Smallpox does it, because if you combo off and you have an Emrakul in play, they get the extra turn. You'll never have an opportunity for this. Mindbreak Trap. Well, we'll consider that another counterspell, but Mindbreak Trap. There's other non-counterspell answers though. So let's Damping Sphere actually is pretty good. So Damping Sphere, because now for each spell is going to cost, like, I need, how much mana do I need? Because it's going to cost me like, it cost me nothing for my Violent Outburst, but then it's going to cost me 1 more for my Tybalt's Trickery, and then it's going to cost me 2 more to cast my Emrakul. So this slows me down a lot. There is no Diabolic Edict in Modern, at least. I don't know, are there any instant edicts in Modern? Dranith's Magistrate. I have seen this multiple times right now. It's Dranith's Magistrate's time to shine. This card is seeing play right now in Modern. Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. It is very, very strong. It is a strong card. It's so funny. I feel like I'm the only one playing this deck in Standard, have not played the Mirror once yet. I heard there's a lot of people playing it, though. Maybe I'm thinking of Historic. Maybe there's more people in Historic. Thanks for showing up on Facebook, David. I'm here on 2 YouTube channels on Facebook. You're representing the Facebook side. Oh, we have a Triumph of Liliana as an edict. They put Diabolic Edict. Oh, you're right. Look, instant players, target players. I didn't even notice that. That totally slipped my mind. I mean, I've known about this card for forever. Didn't know they put that in Modern Horizons. I guess that works. That will definitely work. Hello, Sarah. Welcome. You want to be on the show one day, Sarah? Old high school friend finds me on the internet. Okay, so what else do we have here? There's more than this. Okay, let's Meddling Mage. Name Tybalt's Trickery. Boom, game's over. Don't name any of the Cascade spells because they might be playing with more than one Cascade spell. Just name Tybalt's Trickery with Meddling Mage. This thing is a pain. Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, also pretty good. So it slows you. You have to now. You can't combo off with 3 mana. You need 5 mana instead. It's the only way that it will work. Does Silence work? Let's look at Silence. Wouldn't say it's the most flexible card. Where's Silence? Oh, here. Your opponent can't cast spells this turn. I guess you can do that in response to the Tybalt's Trickery, Dio. I think it would work. Matthew supporting the Facebook stream as well. Thank you very much, Matthew. Any red answers? Sort of Roiling Vortex, but it's not good. Not great. Whenever a player casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast that spell, Roiling Vortex deals 5 damage to that player. That was the most common card that I saw, but it's not great. Like, I still beat Roiling Vortex. Like, I still beat any deck that played Roiling Vortex. Because if you're spending time to play Roiling Vortex, then that means you're not spending time burning my face. And if you're not spending time burning my face, I can I can sack 10 damage. Because what I end up doing is I cast the Cascade spell, but then I take 5 damage from Tybalt's Trickery, and I take 5 damage from Emrakul, but, you know, whatever. You're dead. You're dead. It's over. It's over already. Lavinia? Oh, yeah, I saw this one, actually. Azorius Renegade. So each opponent can't cast non-creature spells with converted mana cost greater than the number of lands that player controls. Whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. I guess it's time to break out my Esper soup with no direction. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, some people are like, you can't Tybalt the Tybalt. You're like, can't use Tybalt's Trickery to counter their Tybalt's Trickery. Well, that's not really going to work, because then you still counter their spell, and they still reveal cards until they find the Emrakul, and then they beat you with it. Simple as that. In red, you can use that spell that changes the target of spells. That way you can change Tybalt triggers to target your spell. Is there Ricochet Trap? An opponent casts a blue spell this turn. You may pay a red rather than pay Ricochet's Trap mana cost. Changes target spell. Well, I mean, there might be another card with a similar effect like this, but this one won't work because you won't get to 4 mana. And a blue spell will not be cast that turn. Okay, what else is not too bad? What's it called? Any hand disruption is pretty good. We spelled Thoughtseize wrong. Not even a real word. Okay, so Thoughtseize is also okay, like A-okay. Now, it's not the be-all and end-all, because like a lot of the builds... For example, okay, some builds will have multiple Cascade spells, so you Thoughtseize one and they have another one anyway. And a lot of the other builds that are taking the other direction are playing with a lot of islands and Mystic Sanctuary. So they can eventually get the Violent Outburst back on top of their deck, and then they'll draw it for the turn and then combo off anyway. So Thoughtseize, it still slows the deck down by a lot. Like you have until turn 5 before you die again. So what you end up having to do is you Thoughtseize, then you have to put a really fast clock on your opponent. Oh, I think actually a decent card is Blood Moon, by the way. I got Blood Moon quite a few times. If I don't have a fetch land that can find a basic forest for Violent Outburst, I just have red mana, I lose. Simple as that. I also think, I mean, depending on the build, if you're on the play, some Stone Rain effects can work. Because you go turn 1 Arbor Elf, turn 2 Stone Rain. I should say Pillage. Pillage is just the better land destruction card. That's totally fine. I think land destruction... Well, I mean, it slows them down a turn. I guess this is just garbage. Slow you down a turn. It was played against me, but... Blood Moon is effective. Blood Moon is very effective. Especially since a lot of these decks are playing with all sorts of lands. Oh, if you counter the Tybalt's Trickery with another Tybalt's Trickery, they can get screwed if they find another... I guess that's true, but you're just gambling. You know, it's like 50-50, you know what I mean? It's like super 50-50. Would True Name Nemesis be playable in Merfolk if they printed in... Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I'd slam easy include into the Merfolk deck. Okay, what else is there for the... Oh, Unmoored Ego. I lost a lot of games to this card. My opponent just, like, played 3 lands and played Unmoored Ego on me. So Unmoored Ego says, you know, it's a generic blue, black, choose a card name, search target players... Target opponent's graveyard, hand, and library for up to 4 cards with that name and exile them. That player shuffles their library, then draws a card for each card exiled from their hand this way. So normally they just name Tybalt's Trickery and they win. I have a funny story though. Okay, so I kept a hand with 2 Field of the Dead against a control deck. Like, and I had no Violent Outburst in my hand. They go Inquisition or something. They were like a blue-black control deck. They go Inquisition turn 1. Turn 1. They see I have nothing, but I have my 2 Field of the Dead. So they go on their turn, they went Unmoored Ego, took my 2 Field of the Deads, but I get to draw 2 cards. One of them is Violent Outburst. They're tapped out on their turn. Easy clap, people. Easy clap. It was a hilarious victory. I think they had a better chance if they just went for my... Like, I was like 4 more turns away from even getting a single Field of the Dead token. That was super greedy. They should have just go for Tybalt's Trickery, and that would have been it. GG. Vexing Shusher? What about this card? We can't play this in our deck because then you Tybalt's Trickery into it. You can't play any spells. Well, I mean, you can. There is some stuff. So if this has been said, but does Grafdigger's Cage work? It does not, Jose. We'll talk about that. This is a very common question. We get all the common questions about Tybalt's Trickery out of the way. So, creature cards in graveyards and libraries can't enter the battlefield. Players can't cast spells from graveyards or libraries. But the thing is, what Tybalt's Trickery does is it says counter target spell, and then you mill some cards, but then you exile cards from the top of your library until you exile a non-land card. You see, you're casting from exile, and Grafdigger's Cage. Grafdigger's Cage doesn't prevent you from casting from exile, so Grafdigger's Cage actually doesn't work. Very common question. And a lot of people also ask about Boseiju. Let's just get this out of the way. Boseiju shelters all. Why don't we play Boseiju? Pay 2 life. Add a mana to your mana pool. If that mana is spent on an instant or sorcery spell, that spell can't be countered by spells or abilities. Well, first off, the card that you want uncounterable is Tybalt's Trickery, but we're not spending mana on this. Ashiok does not work, although I will say everyone brings Ashiok in against me. So, like, let's look at Ashiok. Ream. Render. So, Ashiok doesn't work because I'm not searching my library to combo off. However, there was one... the first time I played against Ashiok, they milled my Tybalt's Trickery into my graveyard. And I'm like, really? My one of Tybalt... Really? Really, you're doing that to me? Fuck. And that will most certainly will condition my opponent to believe that was a very good play. It was a very good idea. I mean, it's probably better than nothing, to be honest. I mean, if you're up against an Emrakul deck, let's say you're black based. You have a bunch of removal spells. I would take them all out for things like Ashiok if I could. This definitely would work. And it's better than... I will say it's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. If you have, like, Terminates, which are useless, this is better than nothing. 4 Force Negation should be enough in Merfolk main deck. Honestly, I'm going 4 Force Negation for Spell Pierce, because the problem is, if you're on the draw, you can still lose with Force Negation. Because you need 3 lands in play, and if they go Violent Outburst on your turn when you have 2 lands, like let's say they go land, they play their first land, you play your first land, they play their second land, you play their second land, they play their third land, then they pass, and on your turn with 2 mana, they go Violent Outburst. You can't cast Force Negation because it's only free on their turn. So I actually am going with a little bit more counter magic. I think we need it. Like, the reason the Uro decks are so difficult is because they have tons of counter magic. Remand, Mana Leak, Archmage's Charm, Force Negation, Cryptic Command. You can't get through it all. I don't think you can rely on 4 counter spells. And I would bring in even more from the sideboard. Oh, Teferi works big time. So this prevents you from casting anything, like, at all. So you cascade into nothing, because you can only cast spells at sorcery speed. You can't cast anything at instant speed. In addition to this, it can bounce Emrakul. So, like, even if I try to... Let's say they play Teferi Time Raveler. It's on the stack, and in response, on their turn, I play Violent Outburst. I get an Emrakul in play, and I'll get an extra turn, but Teferi will then resolve and then bounce my Emrakul, and then I'm screwed. Will there be a stream today? Nope, my streams have moved to Tuesday. Gameplay streams are on Tuesday. Good morning, Travis. Any change on your feelings on Dispel? I think Dispel is a pretty reliable card as well. Nothing against Dispel. I don't know what's better. Dispel. What are the candidates? Dispel, Spell Pierce, Curse Catcher. But Dispel is definitely possible. And it's like a hard counter, especially against the Death Shadow decks, which I don't mind having a hard counter against. This Spell Pierce is a lot worse. But then there's all sorts of random decks where you want to be able to counter more things than just instants. Like Teferi, for example. Yeah, well, Teferi doesn't solve them from going first, but it is an answer if they don't combo off somehow immediately. I mean, like, it's fine if you're on the play. Oh yeah, Spell Snare. Oh yeah, that was the last one. Spell Snare. Counter Tybalt's Trickery is totally a thing. It's real. Direwolf says, just watch your trickery video. Nice job. Thank you very much. You're welcome. Wonder if there's any other common misconceptions. So Troll Tuesdays will be back. Well, this is the closest we got for trolling around. I actually posted a video this morning on my Nikachu MTG streams channel. I should actually show this. So hold on. Nikachu MTG streams. I have 2 channels now. This is like a VOD dump channel. So if anyone wanted to know where like see, look, we're live right now. So if anyone wanted to know where like the Coffee and MTGs end up going later, it goes on to the Nikachu MTG streams channel. Some of people are there right now. You're watching from Nikachu MTG streams. Let me know if who's representing the Nikachu MTG streams side. So I have 2 YouTube channels, but I made a Tybalt's Trickery combo video. Because it's quick, it's relatively quick and easy to jam. And yeah, if you want to know where Coffee and MTG ends up going, it goes here. Just throwing it out there because a lot of people don't know about that. Hey, Nico. I must say I am happy with the new angels in the set. Definitely helped my angel tribal. Well, hopefully it can help you against Tybalt's Trickery combo. Vexing Shusher was meant to avoid Tybalt's Trickery to properly resolve, but it doesn't work since Trickery doesn't need the spell to be countered in order to do the rest of the what? I really don't understand what the situation. What is the situation with the Shusher? You can't have Okay, so first off, you cannot have Shusher in your deck. The problem is if you cascade into Tybalt's Trickery, you can end up finding your Shusher, which you don't want, because you always want to hit Emrakul. So you cannot put any other card in this deck other than a land. 4 Violent Outburst, 3 Emrakul, 1 Tybalt's Trickery, nothing else. You can't even have a second Tybalt's Trickery. Representing the Nikachu MTG streams channel. Oh, your opponent uses the shut. Oh! So does that work? I'm guessing it doesn't. I haven't seen it once. I guess because it doesn't say if that spell was countered, mill cards, exile cards. It seems like the spell won't be countered, but the effect still happens anyway. Good question. Yeah, that's a good question with Vexing Shusher. I don't know where it is. Yeah, I get it. Okay, I see. I think other answers for red, like Damping Sphere, can help slow things down. Like quite a bit. So that's like a generic answer in colorless that you could use. Angel's Grace and Silence in the main deck leaves me with that. Well, Angel's Grace is not great, right? Because you're gonna get hit by the Emrakul Annihilator trigger. Not the damage you should be scared of. It's the Annihilator, because when I attack, even if you don't take any damage, you're gonna sacrifice 6 permanents, and likely you're not gonna play Silence or Angel's Grace for the rest of the game. Correct. Spell won't get countered, but the spell could still be cast and just won't counter the spell. We just went over this. You can't play with Bosage. Sorry. You're asking Bajuka Bog. Actually, that's a good idea. Yeah, we should. The sideboard or even the main deck can play with Bajuka Bog. Don't know what decks it would be useful against, but still would be useful nonetheless. Like against a control deck, Bajuka Bog is a great idea. Actually, I like that. Bajuka Bog. Is it Bajuka Bog? This is a great idea. Misread that and saw Boseiju. Because I'm getting so many questions about Boseiju. So many questions. Are we for real not talking? No, we talked about it already. We went over that one. Definitely a real definitely really works. Stifle effects work. Yeah, I guess what's it called? The Tail's End. Counter target activated ability, triggered ability, or legendary spell. Couldn't you add even more 3MC3 Cascade spells? The problem is then you can Tybalt's Trickery into a Cascade spell, and then you fizzle. And it becomes less consistent. So you can go like Tybalt, and then you have to add more Tybalt's Trickeries to your deck. And just becomes this random thing between like Cascade spell into Tybalt's Trickery, into the other Cascade spell, into the Tybalt's Trickery, into the other Cascade spell, and you can actually run out of Tybalt's Trickeries, them bouncing back and forth. Because you only have 4 Tybalt's Trickeries, but you have 8 Cascade spells, so it's possible to hit all the Cascade spells without hitting an Emrakul, and then you fizzle. It's all common questions I hear all the time. Although in Magic Aids' deck, he has more threats to put into play than there are Cascade spells and Tybalt's Trickeries, though. I need your thanks for coming to F&M. Yep, thanks for coming to F&M. Let's have good game. Let's have another. And we all got to work, Aztec. Anyway, I'm just letting everyone know. So like this video is a good primer to let you know, like, hey, this deck is real. It's out there. People are going to be playing it. Even if it were to reduce to 50%, like of a win percentage, people are still going to play this deck. It's a really big deal. Ensnaring Bridge is not bad, but you still need to win quickly. So we have Ensnaring Bridge as an idea. And I got to repeat, like every deck, whatever answer you have, you need to back it up with pressure. So Stolen Identity is like, why don't we play Ensnaring Bridge? Totally legitimate. It's totally a legitimate idea. But remember, these decks play with Blast Zone. Maybe not every deck, but like my version, Sodek's version, we play with Blast Zone. So we can tutor for it with Teleria West, and then eventually blow up whatever you have. And it's just that like a lot of... I'm back. I clicked backspace on the wrong browser. So the problem with Ensnaring Bridge is that it's usually played in like really slow decks without any pressure. So you'll probably give them enough time to like get back into the game. Oops, I don't have... There we go. We're back. I didn't disappear for very long. Meme decks are becoming real. Hammer Time was a meme, and now one of the best decks. Now Tybalt's Combo is a meme and can become really good. And remember, I want you all to be prepared. There is a good sideboard plan piloted by Sodek with Primeval Titan. So the main deck is like an Amulet mana base with Valakuts and Field of the Dead, among other cards. And you know, still what's it called? Teleria West, and his sideboard is 4 Primeval Titan, 4 Summoner's Pact. Also has Cavern of Souls in his main deck. 4 Summoner's Pact, 4 Dryad of the Elysian Grove. Oops. And 3 Explore. And the point is, like, he can sideboard into sort of a Titan package, like an Amulet Titan package, that plays like uncounterable Primeval Titans and kills you with Valakuts and Feel of the Deads. So actually, the deck is pretty real. So I'm guessing that gives him a lot of really good game against the control decks. I'm not learning Amulet Titan at all. You could play Spell Snare in Merfolk. That's totally reasonable. Would Leyline work? Which Leyline? It depends. Depends on the Leyline. I don't know which if it's like Leyline of the Void, Sanctity, or like I don't know which Leyline works. The 2 that I named do not work. I saw a post from a friend of mine. He said he got turn 0'd by Tibble. It's possible. So there's one build with like the Magic Aids version plays with Simian Spirit Guide, so they can turn 0 you. I bet they ban. I'm very doubtful. I bet they ban. I highly doubt that they ban Emrakul, especially since like Tybalt's Trickery is seeing play in like Standard and Historic. The deck is very likely going to. I wonder if there's going to be a. I wonder if there's going to be a Legacy version of this. Probably not. They have like even more answers than the other formats, but I doubt they ban Emrakul. It's very clear that Tybalt's Trickery is the problem. Just want to say thanks for being a Merfolk Master. Was my favorite deck in Legacy. Now we're back with Hull Breacher and Glasspool, and I love that it's still fighting strong in Modern. Absolutely. And by the way, I think Merfolk is going to be great in Modern right now because we've got a good matchup versus. I think we have a reasonably good matchup against the Tybalt's Trickery deck, and if we add more counter spells, it's just going to get better. And we also have a good matchup against the decks that are good against the Tybalt's Trickery deck, the counterspell decks like Uro. So we're gonna be. I think we're gonna have a really good position in the metagame going forward. Is it possible to make a deck that can answer everything, or is it a race everything better, or somewhere in between? Well, I mean, what it basically comes down to is, especially in Modern, you just can't build a deck to beat everything. You try to beat, the more popular decks, and then hope to get lucky against the decks that you aren't prepared for. And that's just how Magic is. And you hope to get the matchups that you want. I mean, there's a lot of luck in this game. You have to get lucky with die rolls. You got to be lucky that you don't mulligan. You got to be lucky with your draws. And you got to be lucky with your pairings. And that's just how it is. The people who win tournaments, they played well. You have to play well. I'm not saying you can't. You like it's all luck. You have to play well. But you also need things to go your way, and generally speaking, you end up getting all the matchups that you want, and you find your sideboard cards and all that other stuff. So you just can't beat everything, and this is something you got to accept. Sometimes you're going to get a bad matchup, and hey, it's never 0%. Maybe you can get lucky in that bad matchup, and by the way, you can still afford to lose 1 or 2 games and still make top 8s of tournaments. That's how this game works, and it's good that way. We can afford some losses. You can still afford losses and do well in tournaments. All right, people. You know what time it is. You know what time it is. It's Decklist review time. All right, so if you got a 75 you want to share with me, I have a link in the description below. I have a link to my Discord server. Go to the channel, Decklist Review, and then using the command !review decklist space, give the URL to your deck. You'll be eligible for Decklist Review at random. You're chosen at random, people. So thank you very much for joining me today. Submit those deck lists, and we are going to get right into Decklist Review. And as people are submitting their deck lists for Decklist Review, we are going to thank our sponsors, starting with we'll start with Fusion Gaming Online, my favorite local game store. And also, Fusion Gaming Online is the place I buy all my paper singles, sleeves, deck boxes. Don't buy deck boxes that often because I don't need that many. I need sleeves like crazy, though. The deal of the week. Deal of the week this week, 20% off select TCG sealed product. So I think this is going to mostly apply to people from Canada. Fusion Gaming Online is a Canadian local game store. I don't think, but check it out to see what you can get. 20% off select sealed TCG product. And also, if you want to make the deal a little bit sweeter, you can also get an extra 5% off if you use discount code Nikachu at checkout. We're going to thank Fusion Gaming for being our sponsor, and we're also going to use thank our sponsor, themanabase.com, your home base for everything Magic the Gathering. And lastly, we are also going to thank Mana Traders, the premier place to rent Magic cards online. And you can support the channel using my Mana Traders link in the description below, or you can save 15% off your first 3 months using my coupon code Nikachu. Want to try out that Tybalt Trickery deck without owning it? Because of course it's going to get banned. You can borrow it with Mana Traders. All right, sweet. Let's go into Decklist review. Okay, mechanical error. I'm going to give you some time. I can see you're typing something. Random, let's go. Is my random command not working? There we go. All in the brain. All in the brain, people. Congratulations, you are the next contestant on Decklist Review. What is the format? Modern? Oh, modern, because of a Modern Horizons card. Goblin Champion. Haste and Exalted. I didn't even know this goblin existed. Foundry. I think this is like a sock full of pennies sort of deck. Foundry Street. I have, by the way, gotten crushed by these decks before in Modern. I hate seeing these things. Foundry Street Denizen. This gets unbelievably large really quickly. Whenever another red creature enters the battlefield on your control, it gets +1/+0. So you can make a pretty damn big creature. Is this Pauper? Oh, a Pauper list. All right. So you know what? I mean, I think this was I thought it looked pretty good in Modern. This is going to look even better in Pauper. So if anyone is familiar with Pauper, you got to get in here in the chat because you have to help me. I am not familiar with that Pauper metagame. Forced Foundry Street Denizen, Goblin Balloon Brigade can gain flying until end of turn. Goblin Champion, Haste Exalted. Goblin Seletter, sacrifice a goblin, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. Until end of turn? That's pretty lame. Mog Raider, sacrifice a goblin, target creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Goblin Tunneler, target creature with power 2 or less can't be blocked this turn. Mog War Marshal, this is super gas. This is a really gas card. You get a goblin, and if it dies, you get a goblin. Sparksmith, deals X damage to target creature, and X damage to you, where X is the number of goblins in play. But it's like sort of a removal spell. Goblin Matron. Shouldn't you have more of these? Why have only one? Is this legal? Oh, no, it's probably legal in another. Yeah, Pauper legal. So it was a common in some other set. And Raging Red Cap, double strike. Well, I'm not a huge fan of the 1-ofs, to be honest. And I think we should have more Goblin Matrons because it can find your Mog War Marshals. 4 Lightning Bolt, great. Assault Strobe. I guess you're just trying to win with these cards. Assault Strobe, Goblin Grenade. Yeah, that's huge. That's huge game. Krenko is fantastic. Actually, I love the sorceries and instants more than I love most of these other creatures. Like, it's funny, you have one usually it's 4 Goblin Matron and one of all the other cards. You have like 1 Goblin Matron and like 4 of everything else. The idea is you make a ton of tokens, attack, make them unblockable, then sack all the goblins to get a ton of unblockable damage. But it's not a huge token generating deck. We just have Mog War Marshal and Krenko's Command. Unless there are more token generators that I don't know about. Yeah, where's the Bushwhacker? Bushwhacker is... That has to be legal, right? That's a common. A Goblin Bushwhacker. And it's a Goblin! Oh, we have to have Goblin. We have to have Goblin Bushwhacker. How about Mob Justice? Okay, so first off, we gotta have Goblin Bushwhacker. I mean, this is like the best Goblin. When it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain haste until end of turn. Like, that is that's exactly what you want in this deck. I would take out the Raging Redcap and the Sparksmith, and maybe Tunneler is good. Sacrifice a goblin, target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn. I think that one's fine too, because you could like go wide and just go all in on one creature. Take out. Maybe get rid of one Tunneler because you can dig for it with Goblin Matron. The main deck is a double strike plan. The sideboard as the War Marshal. Oh, you have the Goblin Bushwhacker in the sideboard here. What's Mob Justice? Mob Justice deals 1 damage to target player for each creature you control. That seems reasonable. But you need to have a balance of like, the problem is that as we add more sorceries to the deck, you'll have less creatures to deal damage with. Mog Conscript. Can't attack unless you've cast a creature spell this turn. That seems also reasonable. And it's a big creature. I don't have that much land for Matron. Then don't play the Matron. That's totally fair. Just don't play it. Scrap this stupid thing. Like, don't play something that's inconsistent in the first place. I think, you know, if you've been on this show before, I'm like, one-ofs or none-ofs for me. So what is the double strike plan exactly? You want to play with this card? Like, not much gives double strike. In fact, almost nothing gives double strike. I think you should just go wide. I really think you should just go wide. Although I have to admit that you need a few... Oh, okay, so you really want to play with this Assault Strobe, go all in on some creature, and double strike them for victory. Okay, if you think that that's better, then I guess you could do that. But I still think... What else is a... You don't need like an individual creature with double strike. Honestly, I would still play Goblin Bushwhacker in the main, and you could still have this plan. Just take out Raging... the Redcap, Goblin Mature, a Sparksmith. This doesn't look that impressive, and it's only a one. Like, these are one-ofs, and I think Mog Raider is fine. I don't know what else to cut, to be honest. I just know I want to cut these three because they don't look that relevant in the deck. And you might as well have both plans in the main deck. You can go wide with a lot of damage, or you can like Assault Strobe people. You can double up on Mog Conscript with 4 more Goblin Cohorts. It's the same exact card, and honestly, I'd suggest 8. Oops, probably just Goblin Cohort. And attack. Well, I have no idea how well this card plays, to be honest. I imagine if you have like millions of goblins, it's fine. But if you don't play if you don't have a goblin spell to play, then you just don't attack. That could end up being a problem. There's actually not that many creatures in this deck. There's only 26. Go to 17 lands. I mean, it's always tempting to go down lands, but that's usually like a disaster. Well, I mean, is the deck doing fine? I really think the Bushwhacker should be in the main deck. I understand this Assault Strobe, so I don't want to take out the Mog Raider. I mean, if anything, we should have more Mog Raiders. We should facilitate this all-in double strike plan, right? Haste Exalted. Really not a fan of this card, to be honest, because this only is... Oh, this assumes you're only attacking with one creature, but then sometimes if you're going to go all in like that, that would work. Because you have Goblin Sledder. It almost looks like you should have more of these types of cards, like more Mog Raiders, if you want to go all in on this Assault Strobe plan. If you had Burning Tree, 17 land usually is fine in those decks. Yeah, but this is not a Burning Tree Emissary deck. This is a Goblin deck, and they the synergy bounces off each other. You played Pauper Goblins before? You like that? You like that strategy of the one mana 2/2s? D&T will be getting more in the metagame? You mean you're talking about, like, what, in Pauper? Well, I don't really have anything else to say. And then if we add more Goblin Bushwhackers, that can add some... Well, like, it's so weird to have these in the sideboard when you could easily have at least 3 of them in the main deck. Maybe even more. And you have, like, 2 plans. You can go wide. You can go wide, and then you can deal a lot of damage. I guess they're 2 different plans, though. You should be... Hold on, let's see. You submit the deck... Well, hold on. Go to my description. Go to my Discord. Go to the channel Decklist Review, and then enter the command as you see it. ! Review deck. ! Review deck space, and then give the URL to your deck. This works for most people. I don't see you trying to type anything. But I think that's the only thing I can help you with. Well, anyway, I don't have much other feedback except that, like, these 3 cards seem to be, like, just random includes and not really relevant. Like, if it's a one of, it's a none of. You're not really going to be drawing this card very often. You don't have Goblin Matrons to, like, dig for them. You only have 1 Goblin Matron. And in addition to that, I mean, okay, maybe without changing your deck too much, go all in on Mog Raiders, because it looks like you need this effect. Take out Spark Mage, take out Goblin Matron, take out Raging Redcap, get 4 more Mog Raiders, and that will help your Assault Strobe strategy, because you want to go all in on 1 creature and then give a double strike, more or less, right? And that's, I think, the most reliable way of doing this. You'll have 8 copies of this card, you'll have at least 1 a game, so you can, like, just go all in on 1 creature, you know what I mean? Yeah, you need to submit... No, not chat. You have to go to my Discord. It's all good. Okay, so I hope that is at least some useful feedback. Good luck with the consistency of your deck. All right, so our next contestant is Rank Tron. Congratulations, Ranktron. You're the next contestant on Decklist Review. All right, we have Snapcast. We have a Mono Blue Tron deck. Mono Best Tron, Snapcaster Mage, Treasure Mage, Torrential Gear Hulk, 1 Wormcoil Engine, 4 Karn the Great Creator, 1 Ugin the Spirit Dragon, 4 Expedition Map, 2 Maze Mine Tome, 3 Talisman of Dominance, 1 Mind Slaver, 4 Condescend, 4 Repeal, 1 Spell Burst, 1 Cyclonic Rift, 4 Remand, 4 Thirst for Knowledge, a Factor Fiction, and you just have a bunch of lands. I really don't have much to say. I really like that you're utilizing Karn the Great Creator. I'm not really a fan of the Mind Slaver tech, though. Do people still use this? I feel like this is very old-fashioned. This is like a very old-fashioned way of winning the game. I know a lot of the Tron players are gravitating to, what's it called? The Shark Typhoon as a win condition. I'm going to take a random guess that you can't afford a Snapcaster Mage, because this is clearly worse than Snapcaster Mage. Snapcaster Mage is just a better card. It's cheaper. I mean, I guess this is a big 5-6 clunker. Weathered Runestone breaks the interaction between Lurrus and Bauble. You may prefer some of those. Yeah, I might. But it doesn't help me against, like, anything else. I don't know if I really want to bring in Weathered Runestone just for Lurrus decks. Okay, 2 Chalice of the Void, 1 Walking Glista, 2 Pithing Needle, a Relic, Liquid Metal Coating, Ashiok, Ensnaring Bridge, Narset, Oblivion Stone, another Mind Slaver. Wormcoil. Like, okay, I don't mind the Mind Slaver in the sideboard, because you can find that with Karn, although probably you don't even need it. Most of the time, you just look for a Liquid Metal Coating, your opponent resigns. But I don't mind the Mind Slaver in the sideboard. The Mind Slaver in the main is a bit weird to me. Wormcoil, Platinum Angel, and Sundering Titan. So you definitely, at least in this metagame, I think you're good for counter spells between Remand, Spellburst, Condescend. That should be enough to beat the Tybalt's Trickery decks. I don't really like the Mindslaver in the main. Why not have like a second Ugin? ETB may search your library for an artifact card with converted mana cost. I always find that Mindslaver seems like so gimmicky. I don't know, has anyone ever played with Mindslaver before? Like, is this card still good? I mean, any deck could play this card, but only mono blue Tron players like to play with this card. I mean, okay, it's not entirely true because you have to sacrifice it and only the blue deck can play with Academy runes. Okay, so I'm just wrong there, but Mindslaver, I think, is a very soft win condition. I've had a lot of games where my opponent Mindslavers me, and I win anyway. Like, what are you going to do with like a bunch of Merfolk? What, are you going to tap all my lands? You're going to cast my Merfolk? What they end up doing is they usually, like, just tap all my lands and then don't attack, and it's like a really crappy Mindslaver turn. I don't have much feedback directly, except for, like, you know, maybe take out a Torrential Gearhulk, put in a Snapcaster Mage. Just because it's a much better card. Thirst for knowledge for a little bit less. It would be good in the sideboard of this type of deck if you have Karn. Well, we do have Karn. We have Karn the Great Creator. So we do have Karn the Great Creator. I could Shark Typhoon. What's this? What's Trellan's latest list? Trellan. Let's look at what Trellan's doing. Is this Trellan? Nope, this is the wrong Trellan. Blue-red. Like, this is what Trellan's doing right now, and this guy loves grinding his mono. I should get Trellan on the show. Loves his mono blue Tron. Obviously, does also very well with mono blue Tron. Look what he's done just in this year alone. The year of 2020. Tons of 5-0s. So this is what he's worked. Like, he basically just jammed the deck with like a bunch of, you know, 2019, 20, and 2020 cards, and now 2021 cards. So he's just winning with Shark Typhoon. Still has that Karn the Great Creator package. So, but no Mindslaver. Playing Urza right now, but still mono blue Tron. Still mono blue Tron. Actually, it's blue red, I guess, because you got a few red sources to play a random Blood Sun or a Boil. Engineer Explosives Expedition map. It's definitely a bit of a different deck, but still plays very similarly. Repeal, Remand, Dismember, but you win with like Urza or Shark Typhoon. Just some idea of like what's going on in this space of the mono blue Tron world, because this is like an old-fashioned version of mono blue Tron. So the only thing I would say, change your Gear Cult to a Snapcaster Mage, change the Mindslaver to some other random card, maybe a second Ugin. Ugin is still a very powerful card against any deck, really. You resolve an Ugin, you basically win the game. And maybe you could you could experiment with some Shark Typhoons. You're welcome. You're welcome. I hope you can do something with this list. And Mono Blue Tron, hey, it's not nothing. It's a very real deck. I definitely believe that Mono Blue Tron is a real deck. A lot of pilots have had a lot of success with it. Very underrated. Probably is just a harder deck to play than the other Tron decks, hence why it does not get as much exposure as the other Tron decks. But that is going to be it for today. Thank you very much for joining me. Coffee and MTG. As usual, we do, if I didn't get to your comments or questions or your deck list, don't worry about it. We do this Monday to Friday, 9 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. Same magic time, same magic hour every morning on the weekdays. I don't do this on the weekends, people. I need to sleep in some days. Every weekday, show up, grab your cup of coffee, and let's brew up some great magic conversation. And thank you very much, everyone, for supporting me. You can support the Nikachu Empire either by subscribing on twitch.tv/NikachuMTG. You can become a patron on Patreon, or you can hit the join button on YouTube. And all of them have access to my exclusive Discord. But thank you very much for joining me today. I had a wonderful time going through all your questions, and we will see the developments of that Tybalt's Trickery deck over the next coming week. We'll see. When is it going to get banned? We could start taking bets. When is it going to be? Is it going to be within this week, next week, the week after that? Are they going to let it sit around for 2 months for the metagame to be completely warped around it? gonna have to wait and see. So as usual, keep brewing up that coffee, and let's keep brewing up that magic. See you next time.